We've spoken in the past to psychiatry professor Dr. John Gartner on the show about his concerns regarding Donald Trump's mental state. And as I mentioned to you before, there is another psychiatrist, Dr. Bandy Lee, who is increasingly talking about what appears to be something very wrong with the president of the United States. Dr. Bandy Lee is a forensic psychiatrist at Yale's School of Medicine, also president of the World Mental Health Coalition. And Dr. Lee has written a piece after Donald Trump's assassination of Iranian leader Qasem Soleimani that we should be looking at very closely because it's so disturbing. And immediately, the military explanation, the strategic explanations of the Soleimani assassination made no sense. And many of us went to Trump wants to distract from impeachment. Trump wants to help himself get reelected in 2020, believes that assassinating Qasem Soleimani may help him achieve that goal. But there's another angle to this. And what Dr. Bandy Lee says is that narcissistic madman is essentially what explains what we are seeing from Donald Trump here. Check this out from Dr. Lee's piece. So what is happening with the president? It is what my esteemed colleague and former director of a division at the National Institute of Mental Health, Dr. John Zinner, has warned about: narcissistic rage. He joined me in leading the petition to Congress, for he believed, too, that while impeachment was important, Donald Trump had the real potential to become ever more dangerous as his condition progressed, as a threat to the safety of our nation. Short of his sole command over nuclear weapons, there were many other dangers he can pose by the use, fueled by rage, of his assumed absolute executive authority and by the loyalists who serve him. And as Dr. Lee goes on to explain this further, it is a spitting image of Donald Trump, particularly analyzed in the context of the Soleimani assassination. Check this out. Quote, anyone who has seen attacks of narcissistic rage knows it can be brutal and destructive. The afflicted person, outraged at the deprivation of the adulation to which one feels entitled, becomes blind to other concerns, such as the safety of others or the self. Upon collapse of one's grandiose image, which required adoration to buttress, one is no longer capable of repressing the painful feelings of inferiority and inadequacy that resurface. This experience is more menacing than any existential threat could be. Access to weapons or war-making power in such a state is extremely dangerous, for they become highly attractive as a means of restoration. Mistakes of the past, such as aggression in the Middle East, are likely to repeat in more serious form rather than be avoided. This is Donald Trump, period. And the things that are, the thing that's starting to get awkward is that we know there are people in Donald Trump's cabinet and in the Senate that know that this is true. They are sort of in this Russian roulette. Do you fire the gun and maybe get another conservative judge confirmed while Donald Trump is acting wacky? Or does Trump pull the trigger in a serious way, up to and including even the topic of nuclear war seemed to be a possibility earlier this week, although not in a serious manner? This is a good time to mention. There are a ton of people who are so desensitized to the way that Donald Trump typically behaves. I talked about this yesterday. They saw Donald Trump's speech on Iran 2 days ago, and because Trump merely lied and stuck to the prompter instead of doing his usual antics, a lot of people are saying, wow, what a presidential speech by Donald Trump. He seems completely fine. Donald Trump giving one speech that's not completely unhinged should not make us forget all of the things he's done and said, which gets us back to Republicans. Many Republicans, the ones that know the degree of absurdity that is Donald Trump, once Donald Trump is gone, the ones whose careers outlived Trump's presidency, they're immediately going to either pretend that Trump never happened or that they never really liked Trump. They weren't really with him to begin with. Others will blame things that happened under Trump's watch, either on Obama or on whoever follows Donald Trump, if the person who follows Donald Trump is a Democrat. Republicans have many reasons to keep Donald Trump in office right now. Some are getting their stuff done while Donald Trump goes crazy. Others are themselves compromised because in the end, when the rubber meets the road, you have a completely unhinged, ignorant president who assassinates an Iranian leader without the congressional authorization he claimed presidents need. And they rally around him, other than Mike Lee, and start their defenses with, well, this guy was no angel. Soleimani was a bad guy. There's lots of bad guys out there. They are part of the problem every time they run interference for Trump with those talking points, because that is a completely different discussion. Who's bad is a very different discussion than what Donald Trump did without congressional authorization to Qasem Soleimani, and particularly when you consider the question of why he did it, not because of any actual national security imperative. We've seen the razor-thin, bogus justification from the administration, but to take attention away from impeachment, and also because he believes on some level that it will help bolster his shot at re-election in November of 2020. We can't let it continue. Make sure you're following us on Instagram for more on this and other stories from today's show, at David Pakman Show. Quick break, back after this.